Hello and welcome to my video on the orientation to the Wiktionary website as well as the San Juan Quiahije Chatino language page. I'm going to be going through how to navigate Wiktionary as a website and additionally show you one of the entries as an example, as well as going through the actual language page, and I will also show you how to get to the page via Google. So I think I'll start off with that actually, since that'll be the most challenging part, I suppose. So we'll start off by going to google.com, and once you're here, you're just going to type in the language itself. And after you've typed this up, you're going to add a Wiktionary at the very end of this entry. And once you hit enter, you should come up with a few hits. The hit that we want to click on is going to be the very top one for me. It may be different if you are on a completely different computer or internet connection. I'm not entirely sure how the technicalities work out, but as far as this goes, this was the first search result for me, but this is the search result that we want to direct ourselves to. So once we click on this, we'll come up to a page that looks like this. I've actually got a tab already open here, but we'll just go ahead and use this one. So essentially, all of this is very confusing to look at, but it's the important part that we want to get to is this very bottom section right here where it says subcategories. At this very top part, right above this A, you will see the Chatino lemmas. This is what we're going to click on. And once we get to this page, you'll see that there are a plethora of entries below here, but we're not going to concern ourselves with that quite yet. Under subcategories here, you'll see that there are different subsections based on the groupings of the words. So like depending on what group they're in is what I meant to say. So we have adjectives, adverbs, determiners, interjections, multi-word terms, which you're not going to concern yourself with quite yet, as well as nouns, numerals, and verbs. This is the main page that you want to get to so that you can navigate most of the website and most of the online dictionary for the SJQ Chatino language. And I have shortened San Juan Quiahije to SJQ for the sake of simplicity, I suppose. So the most popular or the biggest pool of data that we have right now for this online dictionary is in the noun section. You'll see these numbers right here actually hold significance. So there are 567 nouns currently uploaded into the online dictionary for the SJQ Chatino language. There are 100 numerals, so 1 through 100, and there are 184 verbs. This was actually done by an individual named Aryaman. I can't remember his last name. I'm so sorry, forgive me. But he was I think he was an undergraduate student when he was working on this project, but now he's I believe a PhD candidate at Stanford University. But there are 184 verbs here. There are 365 multi-word terms. Essentially, it just means that there is a connection, or there are two separate words, and there is one interjection, one determiner, as well as 70 adjectives and 28 adverbs. So I'm going to show an example in the noun section. So if we click on nouns, you'll see that all of these entries are all nouns. So persons and places and things, or people, places, and things, sorry. And specifically what I want to look up is the word for worm. Excuse me, I forgot how to say it correctly with the tones, but let me find it real quick. And you'll see some of these are a little bit darker blue than others. I'm going to click on this word. So now we have an entry for worm. This was specifically an unspecified type of worm. The corpus didn't necessarily say what species it was or what genus, etc. So this is what we are going to work with for the duration of this video. So you'll see here that this is the word up here at the very top. This is the entry itself. Below, you'll have what language it is. There are a few entries for nouns, I believe, that share an entry with another language. And if that does occur, then you'll see that it's a different thing. So instead of SJQ Chatino here, you'll see German or other languages. And below this, you have the alternative forms. I added the alphabetic tones with the superscript, which I used this Chatino keyboard from Emiliana Cruz, thank you, as well as from Dr. Hilaria Cruz herself. But this is what I've been using, this keyboard, to this is what I've been using for doing all of my entries for these alphabetic tones. You'll see that these are red, which just means that they need an entry, but that's not inherently necessary. And this is just for the sake of formatting. So you'll have the alphabetic tones in the superscript. When you look up these terms, which I'll show you in just a moment, you will not be using the superscript. This is just here for the sake of copy and pasting into electronic documents, accessibility to having the superscript without using this online keyboard, and just generally having it available. And then you'll also see that there is a version with the SHML tones, which is the super high, mid, and low system that was used, I believe, during Emiliana Cruz's dissertation, or at least it was discussed in there briefly, from my knowledge. And please correct me if I'm wrong. But so we have those SHML tones and also the alphabetic tones using the superscript, or the tiny letter that's a little bit above the big letters, I guess is another way to explain it. And below the alternative forms, we have the noun. So this just states the word again. And this is the first definition that we have of this word. So unfortunately, it doesn't have any specific genus. However, there are other words, I believe, that have the specific genome. I was able to identify a few plants, a few insects, as well as a few animals, I believe, whilst working through this corpus for the noun section. So that was fortunate, but unfortunately I wasn't able to find any specific genus or species for this word. Below the definition, which says an unspecified type of worm, you'll see that there are usage examples or example sentences. I've highlighted where the word is being used, and you'll see that this actually has a K. I, for the sake of ethics, didn't change a lot of the information that was provided in the corpus. I simply pasted it as it were in case something had changed. And actually, below that, you'll see that I highlighted the English word that correlates with the word above. And I might have made a mistake, actually, and I'm noticing this now. But this might be the word that's highlighted. I'm not entirely sure. But again, please correct me. I'm very unfamiliar with this language. I'm doing my best to treat it in a way that like upholds its integrity. But again, I'm not incredibly familiar with the nuances. I'm just working from what Dr. Hilaria Cruz has told me, as well as the information from the dissertation that I read from Emiliana Cruz. So yeah, so that is the noun section right here, you'll see. And below that are related terms. So whilst going through this dictionary, I found that there were a lot of words that were very similar, or at least related to the same thing in some capacity, whether or not it was a specified species or if it was something completely different but still related in some aspect, I decided to add those related terms because I thought it might be helpful in case you looked up a word and it was something similar but not quite the exact word. Um, so all of these related terms were hand done, and it's not done by Wiktionary at all. So there's that as well. And I'll kind of like give an example. Let's see. So I believe this word is just referring to a worm. Um, and you'll see that all of these terms are still related, and you'll see that this is the page that we just came from. So if I click back, we're back to where we were. There's also a few words that I feel were structured together in some capacity. So you have this root here, and then you have these sort of, I guess, affixes in some capacity, or just like, these are, I believe, the multi-term words. So unfortunately, it was just an unspecified species of white worm. I was able to gather at least that much, that it was a worm that was white. Let's see. Oh, as well as the SHML tones. So for the sake of reducing confusion, I separated the L, which correlates with the A tone, and the LM, which correlates with the F tone. These two tones were separated, but in writing, I would assume that you would put them together. So instead of having a space between the L and LM, you would just put them together when writing. But again, these are questions that I think Dr. Hilaria Cruz or Emiliana Cruz, or Dr. Emiliana Cruz, excuse me, would best be able to answer. So it would be best to contact them. Additionally, I have yet to do this because I had figured out this feature a little bit too late, but there are ways that you can categorize certain words under a certain grouping or type of noun, I suppose. So down here, you'll see there are categories. You'll have the lemmas, the nouns, and then SJQ Chatino terms with usage examples, which just means that this word has example sentences, as well as the category, which is worms. So if you click on this category, you'll see that this entry is on here, but I need to go back and tag all of these words with the worm category. So with all of that being said, this is essentially how you would navigate the online dictionary for the SJQ Chatino language. Unfortunately, there isn't a very optimal way to go about actually looking up some of these terms. You would have to have an understanding of like what you're looking up. However, if you come back to this page, and if you were to go to SJQ Chatino lemmas, you would be able to go to at least this section, this page that I'd shown before, where you can then kind of narrow down your search of, am I looking for an adjective, a descriptive word? Am I looking for an adverb? Am I looking for an action, so verbs, or am I looking for maybe numbers? So let's say if you were looking for nouns, you would just go here, and unfortunately there isn't a way for me or Wiktionary to kind of add a brief definition next to these words. However, the benefit of this is that you can actually hover over these and it'll give you a brief preview of that definition. So you'll see that this actually means crocodile. If I click on it, and it'll take us to this page, it just simply says a crocodile. Again, no specifics were mentioned. And if you just hover over these, you'll see that each one has a sort of you'll see that each one has a preview. And even here, this was one of those words where I was actually able to narrow down into a specific type of bird. So this is a woodpecker, and I believe below that is a dove or a pigeon. Yeah. So in brief, this is essentially how you would navigate this page for the SJQ Chatino language page. Again, you just come to this page after looking it up on Google by typing San Juan Quiahije Chatino Wiktionary, and then looking up this hit, you would see category SJQ Chatino language. And then you would go down to here where it says lemmas, and then you'll see in the subcategories everything that you would need to navigate your online dictionary. Additionally, I wanted to go through this page. So when you actually look up Wiktionary itself, you'll see that this is the page that you'll turn to or get to. Actually, I think it'll be a different page. Yes, it'll be this page that you get to. So this is the very beginning of Wiktionary. There are different dictionaries for Wiktionary. Very fun to say. So you have English, Français, Ruski, and Español, etc. We, and by we, I mean myself and Dr. Hilaria Cruz and anyone else who comes onto this project, are hoping to expand from the English Wiktionary to the Spanish Wiktionary. And here you'll see that all of the entries and this entire page is entirely in Spanish. And you'll see that my Google Translate plugin wants to translate this. No. And so I have been working predominantly in the English Wiktionary because I believe that would be the best to reach a bigger audience. But Dr. Hilaria Cruz and I actually discussed that we would start on the English Wiktionary and then expand into the Spanish Wiktionary. So after you get to this page, you'll go ahead and click on the English section, and you'll go to the very top right section. If you aren't logged in, this will look completely different to you, but this is not too big of a worry. This is my online alias, if you will. So up in this search section is where you'll kind of look up what word you want if you have a list, and if you are looking for a specific word and you know what the spelling is. Again, you will not be using superscripts here. You'll just be looking up the word using capitalized letters, using shift or caps lock, and a regular typing method on a keyboard with Latin letters, or the Latin alphabet. So I guess Latin script. So I'm going to go ahead and look up the worm definition again. And you'll see that sometimes the Wiktionary will offer different definitions. You can explore those as well, although that's not necessarily what you're going to be looking for. But they will sometimes give you related definitions or like words that have that same word. And it could also be SJQ Chatino. So we're going to go ahead and click on this. And then you'll see we're back on the same website or the same page that we had been on previously. So this is essentially how you navigate through Wiktionary as well as the San Juan Quiahije Chatino page. And again, you could just go back in the video and watch how to navigate it. I was going to say it again, but I feel that it would be overly redundant, I suppose. So I hope all of this made sense. And I hope that you were able to easily navigate the SJQ Chatino online dictionary. It is a bit tricky. If you want to leave any comments below, I will do my best to get to them and explain. If there are any errors along the way, please make sure to correct me. But I want to do my best in making sure that this is accessible to everyone. And Dr. Hilaria Cruz feels the same way, I'm sure. So please let me know if you have any questions, and I hope all of this made sense. If not, please leave questions below, and I will get to them as soon as possible. If you feel the need, you can also write the comments in Spanish. I feel we have enough resources now where I could respond back in Spanish text or like written Spanish. So please do so. Again, if you have any specific questions about the tones or anything related to the grammar, that would be best directed to Dr. Emiliana Cruz as well as Dr. Hilaria Cruz. Thank you, and I'm so honored to be able to work on this project and to help document this language. So I hope everyone else has a wonderful day. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I hope it has done nothing but provide clarification. Thank you.